Hey everyone, so here we are. What I wanted to talk about today that keeps coming up and actually even came up this morning with a client I was talking to right before lunch, and that is the effect of food sensitivities on the brain and how it can affect reading and learning. And specifically, today I want to talk about reading because in the last year, less than a year, I've had two incredible things happen with clients that I'd read about several times whenever I was doing different trainings and certifications and so forth, but I'd never at that point come across it and seen those types of results. And that is the effect that food can have on reading. So if you feel like you've hit a wall, you've tried all these options, you've done all the amazing tutoring, you've maybe had your child in OT, you want to look deeper. And the specific thing I'm going to talk about today, and I want to be clear, it's not limited to, is dairy. So, we often think of food sensitivities maybe with dairy as constipation, diarrhea, stuff like that, right? Well, I had a client not that long ago. Their son, let's call him Carter, had all kinds of reading difficulties and so forth, had visual disturbances. It wasn't dyslexia, it was considered visual processing disorder. And, the letter reversals, blurred writing or not writing, blurred, seeing blurred letters and so forth, and had issues with even dysgraphia and on and on and on. So, because of a previous client I'd had last winter whose daughter had, I can't remember if she had been officially diagnosed with Erlin or they were leaning towards that, she was showing all the symptoms of that. She had, we were working together, and part of my program at one point is starting to look at food sensitivities and if those play a role, and do we need to look at an elimination diet temporarily. And sure enough, when mom eliminated dairy from her daughter's diet, within a week, almost all of her daughter's Erlin syndrome, symptoms disappeared, and within no time, her daughter was reading much better. And then when they would slip, her mom decided, let's see if this is really the case, added dairy back in. Within a week, all of the symptoms returned. So these are people, Carter and this particular mom, who had difficulties with her daughter as well, had done all the tricks, all the things that good moms do, the BED or the bed trick, the visual memory game, the colored overlays. They did OT therapy. Carter's mom had done vision therapy, was super frustrated because she wasn't seeing results. And then as soon as we eliminate dairy, they improve. Now, does that mean that dairy is always the problem? Absolutely not. That's why we have to dig deep on a bio-individual level and look at how food is affecting kids individually. So for one kid, it could be dairy, another kid, it could be gluten, another kid, it might not be that at all. It could be a deficiency or it could be something else. But in any case, that's where the breakdown or the problem happens, I should say, in terms of our approach, is we're focusing on tricks on training the eyes, right? If a child has difficulty with things like letter reversals, we think, oh, we need to train their eyes. And that's really the whole problem, I should say first, in education and healthcare, is that we take what's called a localized approach. If this is where the problem starts, or is happening, I should say, must be where it starts. And that's absolutely not the way you want to approach it. You don't want to approach it from just the angle of where it's breaking down. You want to see what other factors could be occurring, because the body, everything works together, right? It's not a car. It's not like a piece of machinery where this works separately from the rest. Everything affects everything else. And so, this is where, if there's the localized approach, if there's letter reversals, we need to train the eyes. If there's issues with blending sounds or dyslexia, we need to train the ears and do more phonics. If there's issues with writing, we need to do more practice with handwriting and so forth. And those things are not bad. There's a time and place for them. But if a kid is struggling with a learning disorder like dyslexia, dysgraphia, visual processing disorder, and on, there's often a deeper reason or a deeper layer of what is going on. And you're totally going to feel frustrated. Your kid's going to feel frustrated. It can feel like a total waste of time and money when you're, looking at all of these approach from what I call a top-down approach as opposed to a bottom-up. So top-down is like, starting where the brain is supposed to get in terms of development, as opposed to where brain development starts. We have to look at bottom. So we have to look at obviously things like brain development, lower brain levels, primitive reflexes, nutrition, before we start looking at tutoring and all of those other things. So we don't want to look at the problem. We want to look at what learning systems are breaking down. So the two factors that really determine optimal brain function and if a child is going to, have difficulties with reading and learning and writing and so forth is number one, which I talk about all the time, brain organization, right? If there's weak connections, if there's underdeveloped areas of the brain and so forth, brain hemispheric imbalance, if one side is more overdeveloped and one side is weaker. And then the next layer, and I should actually say the first layer that I look at in my 6-month program, is brain chemistry. So that's nutritional deficiencies, food sensitivities, gut health, toxicity, and so forth. And if we don't look at that, we could be missing a piece of the puzzle, or a kid could get suboptimal results. So, basically understanding that we need to strengthen weak areas of the brain. So, basically, I find what I see a lot of is that people are hesitant to look at those factors whenever there's learning difficulties, at the biochemical factors, because they might know it affects ADHD and has an impact on even autism, maybe even depression, anxiety, right? We know caffeine is not good if you're having lots of problems with anxiety, but when it comes to learning difficulties, we have not heard or learned about the research that shows it's not uncommon for dairy to cause visual processing issues. More than that, dairy can cause issues with auditory processing. It can cause issues with speech. I'm going to get into that another time. So those are the factors you really need to look at, is the biochemistry piece, of course, brain organization and so forth. But if you're going to just look at the top up approach or the bottom up approach with brain building, which is crucial, but you don't look at the biochemical piece, you're still missing a piece of the puzzle. So let me know, first of all, in the comments below, if food sensitivities, if you've noticed certain food sensitivities have affected your child, if you've ever considered that this could be playing a role, and maybe you noticed in some way that your child has a food sensitivity, and maybe that's playing a bigger role in other areas that you've never considered because it's never been brought to your attention. So if you are interested, I've created the Brain Chemistry Booster Guide for Better Learning. If you're interested in that, I'm going to send you the PDF. What I'm going to ask you to do, because Facebook's been weird lately, is to PM me. So private message me, say, hey, I watched your video, I really want that booster guide, and I will get it to you. And I just say that because it's only letting me send so many messages to strangers. I think it's because it's thinking it's spam, and then it cuts me off. So if you want to get your hands on the Brain Chemistry Booster Guide for Better Learning and just simple places of where to start, message me and I will make sure that gets into your hands. So thanks for watching, everyone. Have a fantastic weekend, and let me know in the comments below what food sensitivities or what foods do you think could possibly be affecting your child. Now, I will give you a hint. Sometimes it's the food, and even oftentimes it's the food that your child is craving the most, that they gravitate towards the most. So thanks for watching. Have a great weekend, and share with anyone who you know could benefit. Thanks.